Shabbat Shalom and greetings to the 12 tribes scattered into the four corners of the earth according to Bible prophecy, and also to the 12 tribes among 144,000 among the 12 tribes who are being prepared to give final warning messages to Yah's chosen ones still in Babylon. Greetings. Greetings also to my brothers and sisters who are from the Gentile bloodlines that have been grafted into the Hebrew stock of the Messiah, Yahushua, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Greetings. Greetings to the chat. Brother New York Knicks, Brother Diamond Holdings, Only One Way, Brother Iman Bakash, Yakoba Bon Israel, Brother Ruel, Brother Mark, Brother Gary Joseph, Brother Akmar, Brother Superstar, Sister Heavenly Garden, Sister Daniels, listen to your body. Greetings. I have some brothers here today. They're in the other room. The way we're going to do it today is we're going to have our normal Bible study right now. And then I'm trying to get this light right. And then as we have the normal Bible study, the second part today will be question and answer. We haven't done question and answer in quite a while. So we're going to do question and answer today for the second part of our Bible study today. So the first part, we're going to do a continuation of Deuteronomy chapter 5 as we're studying the covenant. And then we're going to take a break as we normally do. And then we're going to come back and do question and answer. Okay, so Shabbat Shalom again to all of you. Welcome. I'm praying that the Most High, His Spirit is blessing you with Himself and His wisdom and His righteousness. Akawan Banya, Shabbat Shalom, my brother. So today we're talking about a very, how do I say it, touchy subject, very important subject, a subject that affects millions upon millions of people. That is the subject of adultery. Now, if we're going to discuss adultery, of course, one of the things we want to discuss is marriage, right? I'm still playing with the light. One of the things we want to discuss is marriage when we're talking about adultery, because a lot of people understand, especially from Christianity, understand that adultery is associated with marriage. In fact, if I were to ask you what was adultery, that is what you would say cheating, right? Man cheating on his wife, woman cheating on her husband. Cheating, when we say cheating, what we're saying is somebody's married to somebody legally according to the law, married to somebody, and is having sex with somebody they're not legally married to while they're married to somebody else. That is the term most people associate with adultery. But let me show you from the word. It's a little bit more than that. So, for example, let's go to Hosea, which we did actually do a Bible series on Hosea. But Hosea, I'm going to look at chapter. I'm going to begin at chapter 3. Chapter 3 in Hosea is a short chapter. And it kind of sums up the first two chapters of the book in terms of the theme of the prophet Hosea, the Hebrew prophet Hawashai. Hosea is another way of saying Hawashai. Hosea, to save. Okay, to save. Praise the Most High. In Hosea chapter 3, I'm going to begin at verse 1, and I'm going to go down to verse 5. Then said Yahweh unto me, go yet, love a woman, beloved of her friend, yet an adulteress, according to the love of Yahweh toward the children of Israel, who look to other gods and love flagons of wine. So I bought her to me for 15 pieces of silver, and for a homer of barley, and half an homer of barley. And I said unto her, thou shalt abide for me many days, thou shalt not play the harlot, and thou shalt not be for another man. So will I also be for thee. For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image, and without an ephod, and without a teraphim. Afterward shall the children of Israel return and seek Yahweh, their Most High, and David their king, and shall fear Yahweh and his goodness in the latter days. So the Most High is likening adultery to us worshiping other gods. And that's really what it is. It's an unfaithfulness to your God. Because the Most High likens us to being married to him because we are his chosen people. Let me explain again that most people don't understand. He's not calling everybody his chosen people. A lot of people like to say, God so loved the world. The world is not his chosen people. Israel is his chosen people. Okay. And he says to Israel, I'm your God. Yeah. I don't want you worshiping any other God. See, that's why when you come to the truth of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you are also joining the people of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, because that's their God. So even no matter if you're Irish or Polish or Russian or German, and you want to connect to the true God, like Cornelius did, he connected with Peter, the Hebrew. And through Peter, he met Messiah, the Hebrew. And Messiah introduced him to his father. Okay, so here, adultery in this sense is being unfaithful to the Most High. So let's take that now to marriage. In the United States of America, and generally in most what they call first world or developed nations, they follow a Christian ethic of marriage. And in the Christian ethic of marriage, you have a contract and you sign papers, actually. And you are in a contractual relationship. And in the Christian ethic, that contractual relationship includes a man and a woman only having sex with each other. And it's very close to the Hebrew. Now, the difference is this. I want you to notice what we just read in Hosea. He said, I bought her for X, Y, and Z. I bought her for silver, barley, right? I bought her and wine. I bought her for these things. I gave her these things. And in giving her these things, I bought her to me. In the Bible, marriage is more than love. Marriage is about provision. So in the Bible, a woman generally did not have a job. She did not have a job. She generally did not work outside of the home. Her job was to raise the family. Her job was to actually make clothes. Her job was to provide wholesome food that the husband would buy or provide for the family. That's what her job was. And in the Bible, she needed to be with a man that would provide for her to be able to do that. And if she couldn't be with a man, if there was no man for whatever reason that would not be able to marry her, she would stay with her father and take care of him. Take care of that family with her mother. Okay. That's generally how they do it, how they did it in the Bible. Okay. So, and when a man had sex with her, that was her husband. Okay. That's how they did it. There was no signing of papers in Israel. See, they're signing of papers now because this is how the Babylonian government does it. But in Israel, a woman was a virgin until she was going to be married to a man who was going to provide for her. And that provision, that agreement between her family and his family was consummated with sex. And it would be the first time she ever had sex. And that would be the man that she would have sex with for the rest of her life. That would be her husband. Okay? So adultery would be another man having sex with her while she was connected and married to this was the first man, the man that was supposed to provide for her, the man that was going to take care of her for the rest of her life and have children with her, she would have sex with another guy. Outside of that, that's adultery. Okay, that's adultery. Or if she wasn't with any man and she was being paid by a man to have sex with him, now she's a whore. And he's a whoremonger. She's not a wife because she's not committing herself to one man. In the Bible, a man can have more than one wife because it's based on his ability to provide. Again, there's no Social Security. There's no retirement plan in the Bible. There's no corporation that they worked in. So the woman needed provision. So she would marry. That's why a king would have multiple wives, because as a king, he would be rich because he'd be collecting money from the whole nation. The nation would set aside land for him. He had servants that the nation paid for him. So he was rich as a king. Therefore, women wanted to marry a king because their children would be heirs of the king, and they would all be provided for. They didn't care how many other wives there were, because it was about provision. In that sense, all of those women would just have that one man as their partner in terms of sex. If you recall, David had concubines. Those were his women, his wives in his house. And when his son Absalom became king or wanted to take the throne, he was counseled to have sex with all of David's wives, because then they're yours now. They're not his anymore. And when Absalom lost in his attempt to take David's throne, the first thing they did when they came back is they took all the women and they put them away. They were never going to have sex with any other man. That was it. That's adultery in the Bible. Okay, that's adultery in the Bible. Now, let's talk about what adultery is not. I mentioned the fact that in the Bible, a man could have more than one wife. Abraham had Hagar and then Sarah. Hagar was a servant, concubine. And of course, we know Jacob had two wives, and between the two of them and he had two wives, two concubines. Concubine is a status symbol. Today, we would liken concubine, if you want to understand what it means, think of girlfriend and boyfriend. So today, girlfriend and boyfriend would be like concubine. And in today's society, you can kind of understand that, because even in a boyfriend, girlfriend, when they decide what they call it today, we're going to be exclusive. That's boyfriend, girlfriend, right? We're going to be exclusive. That means she's not sleeping with anybody else, and she's expecting him not to sleep with anybody else. But in the Bible, he would be providing for her, and she'd be a concubine, which means if he had a wife, which means two families got together. See, that's the difference. Two families got together and made an agreement that this woman was going to be your wife, and she's going to take care of your household and have your children, and her children were going to be the ones that inherit your wealth first. That's wife. That's why Hagar and Ishmael had to leave, because Sarah said, this woman's son's not going to be inheritance with my son, because Sarah was the wife. Hagar was the concubine. Okay? Even though Ishmael was the firstborn, he wasn't the child of the wife. He was the child of the concubine. That's Bible. That's how they did it in the Bible. Now, Abraham provided for his son, Ishmael, but he wasn't the number one. Abraham had other children, if you remember, with Keturah. He had a bunch of children with Keturah after Sarah died, but none of them was treated as the firstborn. That was Isaac. So he gave all of them gifts, the Bible says, and sent them away. His son Isaac was the one that was the double portion. Okay? Same with Joseph. Jacob had 12 sons. Reuben had sex with one of Jacob's wives. He lost the firstborn blessing because of that. And then it was given to Joseph, who was the firstborn of Rachel. See, he had two wives. He had Rachel and Leah, and he had two concubines. And Leah and Rachel, Leah's firstborn was Reuben. When Reuben messed up, Rachel's firstborn, Joseph, became the firstborn to get. And what does that mean? That means they get a double blessing. So if you had 12 sons, you divide your inheritance into 13. And you give 2 12s to the firstborn, and everybody else gets 1. That's how you do it. So if you have 2 sons and you have a firstborn and a secondborn, you divide the inheritance into 3. 2/3 goes to the firstborn and 1/3 goes to the other son. That's how they did it. That is why Joseph got the double blessing. What does that mean? He had 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and they became 2 tribes in Israel. So even though there were 12 tribes, there really were 13 because Joseph was divided into 2. See? And then Levi became not counted because he was the priest. So that's how you stay with 12. But that's how adultery works in the Bible. It's about provision and about faithfulness to the one providing for you. So for us, Father Yah provides for us. Does he not? He gives us life. He gives us health. He keeps the breath in our bodies. And he provides for us food, shelter, clothing. You say, oh, I worked for it. Yeah, but he helps you get that job. He gives you the strength to work that job. He could take all that away anytime he wants. So we give Father Yah the praise, and we only are faithful to worship him. He is our object of worship. Yahweh is the only object of our worship. He's the only thing we worship. If we were to give something else that level of worship, we'd be committing adultery. Now, with regard to divorce, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Now, I want y'all to understand that in the Christian ethic, they use, oh man, I don't like this. Like they use it's more of a, oh, it's more unrealistic, put it that way. First, before we go to 1 Corinthians, let's go first to Matthew chapter 19. Matthew chapter 19. I think that's what I want. Yes, Matthew chapter 19. It kind of explains it the way the Most High really wants us to understand it. And if you have to devoid yourself of the Christian teaching, just look at what it says, okay? So let's take a look. Matthew chapter 19. I'm going to start at verse 3. I'm going to start at verse 3, and I'm going to go down to verse 12. Matthew chapter 19 from 3 to 12. The Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, saying unto him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? Because in the Bible, a man's allowed to divorce his wife. So he said, can we just divorce her for anything we want? For every cause. And he answered and said unto them, have ye not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female? And said, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore Yah hath joined together, let not man put asunder. Okay, so he said, he's using Adam and Eve, and he's saying they became one flesh. Not only was Eve from Adam's rib, but they had sex. When you have sex, you're one flesh. The man is inside the woman. So you're one flesh, you're one. He said, when you do that, don't let outside forces come between you. That's between you. That's yours. That makes the act of sex holy, sanctified. That makes it more than just a physical act. It's a spiritual act. You're coming together as a sign that you're supposed to be there from the Most High, that you're supposed to be one flesh. And as you enjoy the Spirit of the Father that rests in both of you, you should enjoy each other. Isn't that beautiful? And you shouldn't let anything come between that or anyone. That is why when we are ready to be with someone, we should make sure that it's the Father Yah bringing that someone to us. Because it's a sacred thing. Now, again, in the Bible, a man could have more than one wife as long as he's providing. That's the key. He's providing. In our society, though, people are not into that, right? They don't want that. People get jealous and people get hurt, especially the women. They get jealous and hurt. They don't want to hear that. Yet, I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we didn't really know or really see that it's happening all the time. You see this all the time. Especially you see it with professional athletes. Why do you think when a professional athlete signs a contract, they have multiple women coming at them? And you don't think that the women understand that there's competition, that there's other competition out there? Why do they do this? Why do they want to be with a man that's probably with 5 other girls? Because why? Because if he's making 10, 15, $20 million a year, he's able to do what? Provide for them and their children for the rest of their lives. And they do that all the time. They do that all the time. Case in point, in New York, there's a basketball player, Carmelo Anthony, very well known in New York. Had a wife, Lala Anthony, have a son, Keon. And then they found out there's another woman in Chicago. She was studying in a PhD program, University of Chicago. That's high level. That's smart. Yet she was pregnant. She had a baby for Carmelo Anthony. That caused him and his first wife to get divorced. But look, they divorced in the eyes of the law. But let me tell you something. He still hangs out with Lala, and he still takes care of the mother of his other child too. He still takes care of Keon, and he still takes care of his other child. Because why did she get pregnant, knowing that the man was pregnant, was married already? Because why? Because she realized there's enough money to go around. He could take care of me and my child, and his wife and his child. She did not mind being what? Concubine. Because it comes down to what? Provision. Okay? It happens all the time. And it's not always even professional athletes. It could be anything. You see sisters struggling. The man, she has 2 kids. Man's in jail or the man's dead. And she just wants, I remember once I was working, I told you this story. I was working in the bank. I was managing the bank. And older lady, she must have been 70, 80 years old, come in the bank, and she'd always hug up on me. You know, I was mad. She'd just come in my office and hug up on me and kiss me. Oh, I just love you. If I was just younger, she said. And so one day, one of my coworkers said, man, but he's married. She said, he's a good man. I don't care if he's married. You need a good man. He got a good job and he handsome. She said, see, that's how the thinking has been traditionally. Okay. She just cared. She knew I could provide for her. She liked, you know what I'm saying? That's how it's been. And there's a lot of situations where she's not that old and I'm not faithful to my wife, and they do that. That happens a lot. And it goes back to what? Provision. People are lonely and they want provision, especially people, you know. Hey, listen, y'all know, I'm talking to the choir here. Y'all know, you get lonely. Now, I'm not saying every man should do this. You don't want to do that because that's going to create strife. Not only that, somebody asked me, well, if you're a Hebrew, how come you don't have more than one wife? Because I promised my wife I would just be with her. You have to keep your vow. I made a vow before the Most High where this woman would be my only wife. And the Most High don't take it lightly if you break your vow. Okay? Doesn't take that lightly. If you break the vow, you got to pay for that. You got to pay for that. Okay? Yeah. Let's continue. Matthew chapter 19. Beginning back at verse 6. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore Yah hath joined together, let not man put asunder. They say unto him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? And he said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, except to be for fornication, and shall come and marry another, committeth adultery. And whoso married her which is put away doth commit adultery. His disciples say unto him, if the case of the man be so with his wife, it is good not to marry. But he said unto them, listen. So listen what the disciples said. Said, man, better not to be married, because if you get married, you're gonna get divorced, and you can marry somebody else. You fall in love with somebody that's you commit adultery. And he said, better not to marry them. What did Messiah say? But he said, all men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. So what does that mean? Well, you don't want to commit adultery, so you're trying not to marry. But let's say you're lonely. You meet somebody, you want somebody, and you're divorced. What is that? What you gonna do? I've seen a lot of people trying to stay unmarried and lonely and mean sometimes. Just better to go get married. He said, not everybody can receive this saying. Okay. Then he goes on and talks what most don't understand. He's talking about people that could be by themselves and that need to be by themselves. There's certain people that need to be by themselves. Verse 12. For there are some eunuchs, that's unmarried people. There are some eunuchs who were so born from their mother's womb. In other words, they came from the womb with the inability to want to have sex with the opposite sex from the mother's womb. Some of those type of people we call what? Homosexual. Born from the mother's womb with no desire for the opposite sex from the mother's womb. And there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men. Daniel was captured and became a eunuch. What they do, there's a certain operation, let's call it that way, they perform, where the man will no longer have a desire after they finish with you to want to have sex. Eunuchs of men. And there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. A person that has no sexual desire, a man for a woman or a woman for a man, does not mean you need to go to the same sex. If you're going to follow the kingdom, you're going to stay by yourself, because you obviously have no desire for sex the way the Most High created you to have sex. And that's natural. He said from the mother's womb. So he has given you the ability to be like Paul. That is, you are for the kingdom, period. You're not for another person. It's not the Most High's will that two men boink each other in the behind. That's sodomy. Or two women to be in lust with each other. That's not the Most High's will. But if you don't have a desire for the opposite sex, stay by yourself. Stay by yourself. And he said, who can receive it, let him receive it. If that's your natural desire, like you don't have a desire to be with a woman, or if you're a man and you don't have a desire to be with a man, okay, stay by yourself. That's not been given to you to have the desire. Stay by yourself. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So all cannot receive the same. So that is why if somebody, and now let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. With that in mind, Messiah just gave us a lesson. Let's go to what he gave to Paul now. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. So the object then is for a man to be with a woman that he's going to provide for, that's going to be his woman for life. And for that woman to be with that man that's going to be her man for life. But now let's understand, we live in a world where we've been deceived, where Christianity has confused us, where we don't even know, we ain't been raised in right households to understand marriage at all. So some of us got to go through all kind of stuff. You got to go through all kind of partners, intimate friends, before you figure out the real deal, right? It's unfortunate because the Most High would have a woman keep her body pure for that one dude. And he would have that dude work hard so that he could get to an age where he could provide for that woman. But in the Babylon society in which we live, this is very difficult to do, especially for a Hebrew. And then they try to destroy us so that by the time a girl is 12, 13, 14, she's been having sex already, sometimes with a lot of different dudes. This is the perverted society in which we live. So now we got to talk about, okay, we live in this perverted society, and society that's filled with adultery, correct? It's a society filled with adultery. Okay. Sex has become casual. So that you could just be sex partners, sex buddies, right? It's become casual. That's the devil's plan. That's the devil's plan. What do you mean? Most High made it holy and sanctified. The devil wants to degrade it. That's what's wrong with pornography. What's wrong with pornography? Somebody says it's just two people having sex. First of all, it's two people having sex, not being sanctified. It's not private. It's for everybody to see. Two dogs could have sex in the street, but human beings are made higher than dogs. You could see two dogs having sex in the street. So that pornography is a degrading of the two people involved. So you're putting yourself on film, you're putting yourself out there for anybody to see you, you're degrading the act. You're degrading the holiness and sanctification of it. You're making yourself a spectacle. And you're making it cheap. You're making something that should be exotic, cheap. And oftentimes, I found out when I did some research on it, I found out most of the times the women involved are either snatched, they're either like sex trafficked, or they're tricked into that lifestyle, or they're born on the street with some people that shouldn't be parents and then sold into that. They're not doing it because they like it, but they have to act like they like it for the film to be bought. So that most of the females you see doing that, if they were born in a different place or raised a different way, they wouldn't be there. And if they could get out of it, they would. Most of them are forced into it or tricked into it by pimps. They don't enjoy it. I remember I saw a video, a documentary, and they showed one lady. She was an ex-porn, and I don't. If you notice, they always say porn star. What porn star? What are they, stars now? Because they can have sex with multiple men in every orifice? They stars now? Porn star? No, they're just actresses. They really are. They're actresses. And she said, it's not even like shaking hands. She said, it's not even anything like that. She said, it's not even that intimate. Everybody's acting. It's degrading the act that's supposed to be sanctified. It's degrading it. Okay, that's what's wrong with it. So next time one of y'all looking at and you think this girl is enjoying herself, she is not. She's not. She'd rather not be doing that. And they talked to multiple. I saw the video. It was a documentary. They talked to all of these ex so-called porn stars, and they were saying, she just wanted one man that could be her husband that she could be with. And someone were trying to do that business and have a family. And it's impossible. Because the dude know you coming home after having all kind of dude up inside you. And you can say, well, it doesn't matter. I was just doing that's whore. That's a whore right there. That's whoredom. And that's what the Most High equates when we are worshiping all kind of other things but him. Whoredom. Same thing. Same word. Israel committed whoredom. Why? Because they were worshiping the sun, the stars, the tarot cards, the necromancer, the the Ouija boards. They worshiping. They go to Witch of Endor. They go to the palm reader. That's all. That's whoredom. That's whoredom. It's whoredom. Okay, that's what's wrong with pornography. That's what's wrong. And then, of course, you get into, which I'm not going to go into now, but there's all kinds of degradation on top of that. It's not just sex. There's other degradations along with that. And then, of course, they bring in children into it now. So you have child porn, where these perverts out here raping little kids. And listen, it's big time because it's $1 billion industry. Child porn is $1 billion industry. So somebody buying it and somebody's doing it, right? $1 billion. You don't just get $1 billion for a couple hundred people. Okay. That's how perverted things have gotten in these last days. And it's all going to be destroyed very shortly. And if you're having one of these problems, you better pray to your Father in heaven so he to deliver you from this foolishness, because you're being involved with the darkness of the dark. And if you're a sister and you're stuck in this thing, call to your Father, walk away. Better for you to be stuck, be hungry, thirsty, whatever, homeless, whatever you got to be to get away from that. And there's a lot of sisters out here in every major city that are homeless, trying to get away from that. They don't know any other way to provide for themselves, can't provide for themselves. Matter of fact, it's been said that if they're in enough videos, they can't even work because people will recognize them from the videos, because there's so many men watching the videos, they'll recognize them as the porn star and they can't even get a job. This is what Satan is doing to our people. This is what he's doing. Protect your children too. Protect them. Protect them at all costs, brethren. Pray over them. Ask your Father, protect them. Do what you got to do, because this world is filthy. It's filthy with adultery. Filthy with it. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, beginning at verse 1. I'm going to read from verse 1. I'm going to read a lot of this chapter, but let's start from verse 1 down to verse 10. Now, concerning the things whereof ye wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. To avoid fornication. Fornication is a form of adultery. A fornicator is a person that's having sex. There's no financial, you're not caring for the woman. You're not taking care of her. You're just using her body for sex. That's fornication. Okay, there's no commitment from you, brother, for you to say, oh, I'm going to stay with this woman, help provide, I'm going to help pay her rent, I'm going to help with some food, I'm going to help her with kids, whatever. No, you're just having sex with her. That's a sex buddy. That's fornication. Okay. If you're boyfriend and girlfriend, okay, then there should be some sort of commitment, right? I mean, even in our society, isn't that mean when you say that's my boyfriend or that's my girlfriend, doesn't that mean that you're not having sex with other people? You may not have gotten married according to the state, but that's your boyfriend, that's your girlfriend, right? So you're not having sex with other people, right? Then therefore, you're not just using them for sex. And let me take this a step further while we're on this subject, sisters. You know what? We talked about this last night. you can go to the gym, get yourself in shape, make your shape look nice, and just show it off to the brothers, and the brothers be looking at it, and they want to have sex with it, because the brother's going to look at your body and say, man, that's nice. I like to have sex with that. But don't you ever think that that's going to hold him. Don't you ever think that that's going to keep him with you. It's not. It will draw people to you because they want to have sex with you. But in terms of staying with you, if you're intending on having a long-term relationship, it takes a lot of more. Yeah, back in the day, we used to say, sex is good like Hollywood. Yeah. But that for a brother could be with anything with a skirt. Because brothers are definitely drawn by what they can taste, what they can smell, what they can touch, and what they can see. But what you want, sisters, is somebody that's drawn by what your heart is, by your spirit. That can only be done by the Most High. So there's nothing wrong with you keeping yourself in shape, but don't let that be the leading candidate to snatch your mate. Some beautiful women are almost cursed. My wife and I would say, oh, you see some women that are just born beautiful, just absolutely stunning, and can't hardly find a good man because everybody's seeing what you see, right? And they don't even know anything about the character. And they don't care about your character, just your looks. And I heard a comedian say it the other day. I think it was Chris Rock. He said, men are the only ones that cannot be loved unconditionally. And it's true. He said, because when you meet a new man, if you're a woman, your friends ask you, what does he do? Right? If you're a dude and you meet a new woman, what do your friends ask you? What does she look like? What does she look like? First thing they say, what does she look like? But the man, what does he do? Because they're expecting you to provide. But if you're a man, you think of somebody having a woman, what does she look like? Is she fine? I mean, and everybody has that. Some people got checklists. I've known brothers have checklists. Well, she got to be fine. And fine depends on the brother. I used to be just like that. I'm not no different than y'all. But I had enough sense, just enough, to know that if I kept picking like that, I was never going to be happy. Because sisters, you could be beautiful. I ain't gonna front, but you know how much flavor's out here? There's always somebody that looks better. Always. You're never going to be the best looking, ever. And in the men, you're never going to be the most handsome, ever. There's always somebody out here. And I, even at age 20, 21, I knew that. Okay. And after a while, it all gets old, doesn't it? But when I prayed and I said, Father, you pick her. I don't care what she looks like. As long as I know for sure that you picked her, I'll do that. I'll marry her. I'll be with her. And when he showed me the one I have, listen, she's pretty, but it wasn't that. I was scared. She wasn't what I would normally pick, and I wasn't what she would normally pick. But we both knew the Father had us together. And as time has went on, this is 38 years, and Most High knows my mind and my heart. Everything is at the highest level ever. Everything at the highest level. And that's of the Father. That's of the Father. That's because he picked her. And it was not easy getting here. It was the hardest thing in my life to get to this point. And the hardest thing in her life to get to this point. Gut-wrenching, difficult years, very difficult years. Lots and lots and lots of prayer. And one thing we both knew, and this is another thing as a key that blessed us. I would never pray, Father, she's so stupid. Why can't you make her see? I would think it, but I would never pray it. I would say, Father, help me to see, because I'm missing something here. Help me to see. Open my eyes. Help me. And I would pray for her. Most High strengthen her, bless her. And I would do that consistent. I do it now, but I mean, even in the toughest of times, when I didn't even want to be with her anymore, Father, please bless her. Please take care of her. Please guide her. Please help me open my eyes. I can see. And she would do the same thing. And brethren, that's what kept us together. That's what kept us together. That's what got us to this point where now it's easy. I ain't gonna front. It's easy now. Real easy. But at the 38th year, you figure it would be, right? But hey, it really took all of that. And reason is because I'm a human being, a man, and she's a human being, a woman. We're not the same person. We're different people, both in this world. So I don't care who two people you are. There's going to be adjustments, brethren. There's going to be adjustments. There's going to be trials because you're two different people, two different entities coming together. There's going to be trials and adjustments. It's just going to happen. Some of us are easier than others because the Most High fit us, right? But everybody takes work. There's nobody that's going to go through, sister say 43. There's nobody going through 43 years. And you can't tell me wasn't no work involved, wasn't no serious heart-wrenching, searching going on, right? Has to. That's why he said, better not to touch a woman. Because, brethren, it's hard. Not easy. It's hard. And especially you growing up and we growing up in broken homes. I tell you about my mother and father. I mean, everybody got a story, right? So you going through something. You going up in homes like that. Women not taught how to keep a home, how to keep a man. Man not taught how to be a husband, how to be a father. Then all of a sudden you coming together. Ooh, it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard. But if you do what I just said, you pray to the Father about you and pray for your spouse. Pray consistently for your spouse, for their blessing, for their health, for their prosperity. You pray for your spouse and you pray for yourself that you can be better for them and for the Father's glory. It'll be hard, but you'll make it. You'll make it. It'll be hard, but you'll make it. If both of you are doing that. And it's not for me to decide if she's doing it enough, for her to decide if I'm doing it enough. Praise the Most High. Okay, let's keep reading. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Nevertheless, verse 2 said, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife and every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife hath not power over her own body, but the husband, and likewise also the husband hath not power over his own body, but the wife. Defraud ye not one another, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. See, brethren, sometimes people get married, and again, sometimes familiarity breeds contempt. So in other words, sisters will be primping. They'll be going to the gym, 5 days a week. They'll be dieting, getting themselves right, putting that nice dress on, and they'll be fitting perfectly. And then when they find the dude, let it all go. Then brothers be acting and hold doors for you and buy flowers for you and do all these things for you and treat you like a gentleman until he gets you. Then whatever. What this is saying here, when you are together, you must always remember you belong to this person and this person belongs to you. Therefore, you want to keep yourself for that person in all ways. In other words, I want to look good for my wife. I want to be good for her. And she wants to look good and be good for me. Okay? But that really shows whether it was about another notch on your belt, or if you're a woman, a status symbol, so your friends could see the ring or whatever. Or was it really about glorifying the Most High for you and you not being lonely no more and giving glory to your Father? Was it about that? Or was it really just about a status symbol? Or was it about me just getting into this stuff here and getting that, oh yeah, I hit that. Oh yeah, I got that too. Nobody wants to admit that these are the reasons. But which brings me to another point. Be real with yourself. Don't lie to yourself, because you end up eating your lie. Don't lie to yourself. What are you in this for? What do you want? What are you here for? Be honest. Be real. Father knows already. He already knows. See, this is the thing. We start lying to ourselves. And the scariest part of that is when we start believing our own lie. And one of the ways I could see people lying to themselves and believing it, they'll say something like this: I'm still not married. I'm ready. Oh, you declared yourself ready. You just lied. If you want a spouse and Father thinks you're ready, he will present you with a spouse. If he doesn't, you're not ready. But most people won't receive that. They won't receive that. I'm ready. Oh, so you know yourself better than the Most High knows you, than your Creator knows you? No, you're not ready. If you were, you'd have a spouse, or you'd be able to keep one and didn't lose it if you were ready. Be real. See, be real with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Society is a society, and we live is full of lies. The Bible said the devil, who's a liar and a murderer, deceiveth the whole world. Understand that. You're living in a society where everything's a lie, brethren. The churches are lying. The religions are lying. The politicians are lying. The television is lying. It's full of lies. So you're living in a situation full of lies. You better be real with yourself. Because you get caught up in these lies, you'll be upset and lonely and by yourself. Don't lie to yourself. You understand? So you just like, and that's why I praise the Most High, because again, I was 21, and I thought to myself, what really drove me, brethren, and I'm being honest with you, and some of y'all can relate. My parents had the worst marriage I ever saw, and I did not want that. And it stopped me from wanting to be married. Period. I was scared to get married because I was scared to be like my dad and my mom's marriage. I did not want that. I would do anything to avoid that. So I prayed and I said, Father, you got to do this, because I can't. I knew that I couldn't. I knew I couldn't. I had enough sense to know that. Shoot. I know what fine looks like. You know what I'm saying? If I was just going to go with that, I could do that. But I knew that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed to have the Father pick her, so that at least I know I didn't pick her. Father Yah picked her. He knows what he's doing. He's perfect. I know we're going to still go through hell, but hey, at least I know he picked her. And this is the one he chose. Okay, I can go from there. Okay. I did not want what my parents had. Turned me off to marriage completely. Mm-mm. I asked my dad once, I said, why did you marry each? Why did y'all get married? If it's ended up like this, I mean, I've never seen such nastiness and anger and violence, man. And he's like, well, we had you. And now I guess shut me up for the minute. But then I thought to myself, dad gone. I don't know if that was worth it. So that when it was time for me to start thinking seriously about a woman, I said, Father, you got to choose, because I'm going to make a mess of this one. Mm-hmm. So the wife does not have power over her own body, but the husband. And the husband, it doesn't mean you own him and he owns you. It means you live for each other. That's love. You love and respect each other. You respect each other enough so that you're always trying to impress the other one. You're always trying to, like, I want to keep in shape. I try to eat right. I'm always experimenting with stuff. And part of it, like, I like to look good in my own clothes, but I want to look good to my wife. There's been times when I didn't want to touch her because I didn't look good to myself, and she didn't want to be with me because she said I don't look good. And even though that's hard, I respect it and she respects it. We got to feel good about ourselves when we look to each other, right? Got to respect ourselves and respect their spouse. And brethren, so I want to be good for my wife. I want her, and she wants to be good for me. And I like it. She knows she's really obsessed about certain things, and she goes, gets her hair, her nails done. I know she just wants to look good, and I appreciate that. And she sees me working out, trying different diets, going with fruits and losing weight, and and I'm trying to look good for her. And it's weird. After all these years, I look at her and I say, Dad, she hardly ages, and I'm getting old. And she looks at me and says the same thing. It's so crazy. She's like, you don't age. I'm getting old. I said, no, you're not. You look just as good. She's like, no, you look just as good. Man, I still think I'm right. She looks just as good. But that's what happens over decades of trial. And not, and don't, like, I'm going to try to say this nicely. Don't withhold sex from your partner just because you want to punish them. That's what it says. Defraud ye not one another, except to be with consent. Render to each other due benevolence. If there's a problem, talk to somebody. Talk to your Father in heaven first and talk to somebody, because you don't want that. That can lead to outside forces coming in. Talk to somebody. Pray through it. Pray through it. Okay? But don't, and this is the thing. When a person doesn't want to have sex with their chosen partner, there's a few options here. They may be not feeling well, right? There's something wrong. Okay, they're not feeling well. And that's cool, right? You don't want to do that when somebody's not feeling well. And then, or they're angry at you. Something is wrong. That's when you need to talk and pray, right? Or their heart is drifting away from you. And that's another reason to pray and talk. And in all cases, be kind, but be real. Don't lie to yourself, and don't lie to your spouse. Be kind and be real. A lot of times two people get together and they shouldn't have been together. My parents, Exhibit A. A lot of times two people get together and they shouldn't have been together. Not always we pray for our spouse and say, I'm going to listen to the Most High and I'm going to take this one because he told me this is her. No. Mm-mm. There's other motives, other plans, other things. Sometimes I knew a girl once, she wanted to get pregnant so she could move out of her mother's house. Because at the time, the government was giving welfare checks depending on how many kids you had. And so she just wanted to get pregnant to get out her mother. Simple as that. She wanted to get pregnant to get out her mother's house. And I know that y'all heard that story before. She ended up getting a purpose. Some dude got her pregnant. She got out of her mother's house. It's people make decisions that change their life over dumb things sometimes, right? My mother said, I saw your father's hair and I thought we could make nice babies together. So I decided to be with him. That was the rationale. But people make decisions like that. But we are blessed, brother, because we have the Father Yah. We could go to him. We could go to him with any problem we have. And in this area, a lot of people have problems. There's a lot of sex problems out here. If you are having some, go to your Father. Pray in secret to your Father. In secret. And tell him the truth. Don't lie to him. He already knows. So be real with yourself. You're helping yourself. And he could help you then. He can help you. You're going to have problems. This world is perverted, brother. It's perverted. It's full of lies and adultery. It's perverted. We live in a perverted world. So just understand that and understand that it affects you. And if it affects you, go to your Father. That's what he's there for. Go to your Father. He's not going to condemn you. He already knows you. What you think? You hiding something from him? And Messiah, they know you. They know all about you. You're not hiding nothing from them. But they're waiting for you to come clean. They're waiting for you to come clean. Come clean. There was a time I told you I wanted to commit adultery with my wife just because we were having problems. And I said, Father, I want to have sex with another woman. I told him I want to have sex with somebody else. And if you don't stop me, I'm going to do it. And he stopped me multiple times because I asked him to. Because I asked him to. It wasn't my desire. I was doing that by faith. My desire was to please him, yes. But I wanted something. I'm a man. I wanted something. And I came clean. I said, this is what I want. Unless you stop me, I'm going to do it. So I felt like if he didn't stop me, he was going to let me do it then. And he stopped me. He stopped me. Multiple times. Until that desire left. And it left. It didn't. But you had to come clean. You got to be real. We're in an adulterous society. Christianity is an adulterous religion. It's not the true God. It's not Yah. It's white Jesus and 501c3 man-made institutions. That's why they have so much problems in there with marriage. It's true. It's what it is, man. Let's keep reading. This is always a powerful subject because it affects almost every adult in society, right? Verse 6, but I speak this by permission and not of commandment. For I would that all men were even as I myself. See, Paul never got married, never had children. He said, I wish everybody was like that because we focus on the kingdom. But as we know, not everybody can receive that. And he says it. But every man hath this proper gift of Yah, one after this manner, another after that. I say, therefore, to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I. But if they cannot contain, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn. And unto the married I command, yet not I, but Yahweh, let not the wife depart from her husband. So you come into this knowledge of this truth. You're awakening as to who you are and who the true Hebrew people are. You understand that this is not about a white Jesus Christ that you just raise your hand and believe in. No, this is about a Hebrew Messiah, a lion of the tribe of Judah, of the chosen people of Israel. You're coming to this truth of, hey, your spouse ain't. They're not. Should you leave your spouse? No. No. What should you do then? Love your spouse. Pray for them. And just keep loving them and praying for them and respecting their decision. That's what you're supposed to do. But let's keep reading though. Chapter 7, 1 Corinthians 7, beginning at verse 12. Actually, from verse 11. And if she depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband. And let not the husband put away his wife. But to the rest speak I, not the master. If any brother hath a wife that believeth not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. So if your wife or your husband is not a believer in this truth, but they want to stay with you, it's their decision. They want to stay with you. They don't want to be divorced. Love them. Pray with them. But it says, if they want to leave, verse 13, and if the woman which hath a husband that believeth not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now they are holy. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage in such cases, but Yah hath called us to peace. So you coming into this truth, your spouse is not into it. They might even say, I'm going to leave you. If you continue down this path, let them go. And you could go ahead and marry again, but marry in the truth. That's what he says. Marry in the Lord is what he says here. Okay. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, but marry in the truth. Let me just read from verse 15 down to verse 24, 15 to 24. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not under bondage in such cases, but Yah hath called us to peace. For what knowest thou, O wife, whether thou shalt save thy husband? Or knowest thou, O man, whether thou shalt save thy wife? But as Yah hath distributed to every man, as Yahweh hath called every one, so let him walk. So ordain I in all churches. Is any man being called being circumcised? Let him not become uncircumcised. Is any called being in uncircumcision? Let him not be circumcised. Circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing, but the keeping of the commandments of Yah. Let every man abide in the same calling wherein he was called. Art thou called being a servant? Care not for it, but if thou mayest be free, use it rather. For he that is called in Yahweh being a servant is Yahweh's free man. Likewise, he that is called being free is Messiah's servant. Ye are bought with a price, and ye are not servants of men. Brethren, let every man wherein he is called therein abide with Yah. So there you go. So the thing is, here it is, verse 39. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth. But if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord. In other words, if your spouse is gone and you want to remarry, they wanted to leave you because of your faith, remarry, but remarry in the truth with someone in the truth. And of course, again, we're asking the Most High to guide us in that when and if he wants us to have a spouse. It's up to him, okay? He knows our hearts. He knows where we at. Let him guide us in that, all right? Praise the Most High. So, brethren, that takes us to the final piece for this part is Deuteronomy. We were talking about Deuteronomy, chapter 5, the covenant. Deuteronomy, chapter 5, verse 18. And it says simple words. Neither shalt thou commit adultery. Neither, it is very simple, right? Very one sentence. Neither shalt thou commit adultery. Yet, as we just saw, it is deep. Is it not? It's a deep and vast subject. It's a very important subject. As we saw Messiah discussed it. We saw Paul discuss it. It's a very deep subject. But in the Bible, the society in the Bible at that time was much cleaner than the society in which we live in now. In the Bible, a man raised his children, raised his daughter to be a wife. Mothers taught daughters how to be wives. And when it was time, the families came together. That woman wasn't out having sex with other dudes. She didn't have ex-boyfriends that she was going to be dealing with a new dude. This was her first man, and it was understood This is not something they had to discuss. It was understood. In fact, it was a surprise if they weren't virgins. And that's one of the reasons it talks about this. Will come across in Deuteronomy, because they said, this woman was not a maid. I had sex with her. And they said, bring the tokens of her virginity. What the tokens of virginity is the sheet that they slept on, the sheet. When a woman loses her virginity, there's a little blood that comes out sometimes. That's the proof. Okay. And they had sex generally in one of their parents' houses, either their mother's or their father's bed. And that's why they would bring the tokens of virginity, bring the sheet, and prove you were a virgin. That's what they do sometimes. Okay. So it was understood. There was no like contract needed to be signed. And they were all Israelites. So they weren't like, we have to make vows to not worship other gods. They were born Israelites, born in the family. See, but today we don't even know who we are. We don't know our names. We're born in all kinds of other gods. So we're coming to everything new. Okay, it's all new, everything. What we worship, who we worship, how we worship, what we're reading, what we're studying, what we're being told we have to learn and unlearn. There's a lot going on, right? A lot going on. So including marriage, including relationships, a lot going on. Okay. And so you got to give yourself time to learn and unlearn. Let your Father guide you. Let him direct your path. He will. He's eternal wisdom and knowledge. You can't get all that in 1 hour. He's got to give it to you as you can handle it. Messiah told the disciples, I have a lot of things to say to you, but I can't tell you now because you can't handle them. It's the same with all of us. There's a lot to know and unknow, and we can't handle it all right away. We got to let the Father guide us in the way we should go. Let him in his eternal wisdom guide us so that we can be to his glory in everything. Well, brethren, we're going to take a break. It's 12:42. We'll probably come back about 1:30 and do the question and answer. We'll come back at 1:30, do question and answer. All right. If I see you, good. If I don't, good. Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom.